I'm Alan Spears with Occupy Democrats, and in some breaking news today, a top congressional Democrat just dropped a bombshell of an update on President Biden and his bid for re-election. Now, as many of you are all too painfully aware, in the days following the first presidential debates, the fallout surrounding really both candidates was quite extensive. Trump continued to lie and peddle the falsehoods that he has always done. There was really no major surprises there, but President Biden was unfortunately sick and seemed a little flustered and confused, and the press absolutely jumped all over that. And while I'm not necessarily advocating for excuses or anything like that, it should be noted that the president had spent the past few days extensively traveling, was indeed sick, and is well known to have a stutter. It would seem that the combination of all three certainly took its toll on President Biden, and ever since then, the media has been calling for President Biden to step down. But the mainstream media are not alone, as we have also seen numerous other top congressional Democrats requesting that Biden step down and that they allow a new Democratic nominee to step in their place, presumably Kamala Harris. We've also seen people like George Clooney write opinion pieces requesting President Biden to step down as well. And frankly, it is surprising and unnerving how fast the Democrats have essentially turned on each other rather than uniting in a combined front against Donald Trump. Because yes, while President Biden's performance in the first debate was not good, I think we can all admit that, it's not just about the debates, it's about what he has done as president. What is his legislative track record? And if we're being honest, it's going to be really hard to find a better president with a legislative track record than President Biden. When you consider things like the CHIPS Act or the Inflation Reduction Act, or there are so many pieces out there that are directly credited to him, that he is directly responsible for, that have done wonders for our country and for the economy, and it is a shame that these seem to be getting overshadowed. All of that is to say that while Biden might not have that outward energetic charisma like JFK, for example, he has a fantastic track record of success, especially considering the presidency and the economy he inherited in a post-pandemic world and from an incredibly negligent President Trump. Now, despite all of these points, it would seem that the Democrats are still voicing their concerns and being quite vocal about requesting President Biden to step down and allow either Kamala Harris or another candidate to come forward in his place. Now, recently, President Biden had a closed-door meeting with several top congressional Democrats, and that is actually what brings us into our breaking news today. Now, with all of these concerns and public outcries from fellow Democrats and the media absolutely pouncing on these opportunities, Democrats have started to get a little worried, and actually the House Democratic leader Hakeem Jeffries met with President Biden last night to discuss these concerns. Now, it would seem that this meeting had a definitive resolution, as Jeffries actually wrote a bombshell letter to his fellow Democrats this morning, and that is what we're going to be talking about today. The letter reads, "Dear colleague, over the past several days, House Democrats have engaged in a thoughtful and extensive discussion about the future of our country during a time when freedom, democracy, and the economic well-being of everyday Americans are on the line. Our discourse has been candid, clear-eyed, and comprehensive. On behalf of the House Democratic Caucus, I requested and was graciously granted a private meeting with President Joe Biden. This meeting occurred yesterday evening. In my conversation with President Biden, I directly expressed the full breadth of insight, heartfelt perspectives, and conclusions about the path forward that the caucus has shared in our recent time together. As House Democrats have done throughout this Congress, we will continue to work in the best interests of everyday Americans. Thank you for your continued leadership in service of the communities we are privileged to represent. Sincerely, Hakeem Jeffries." Now, to translate that congressional letter, that is absolutely Jeffries saying loud and clear, as he did yesterday in an interview with numerous reporters, that President Biden is staying in this race and is going to be the Democratic nominee. And I have to say that ultimately I do believe this is a good thing. We have seen in recent polls that President Biden is 1 or 2 points ahead of Trump. Now, it is important to remember that polls do have a margin of error and that they are not definitive proof that President Biden or Trump is going to win or lose, but it would seem that the winds are changing. It would seem that Trump's 34 guilty felony counts, his involvement with Project 2025, and the numerous other scandals he's been involved in are starting to catch up with him. While I don't think that there are exactly a ton of moderates or undecided voters in this particular election, there are going to be a few, and I do believe that Trump has done a lot to push those voters away. And I just got to say to the Democrats in Congress who are starting to kind of pile on Biden and calling for him to step down and attacking him, why are you not uniting? Why are you not pushing back more against the candidate who has recently been shown to have extensive involvement with Jeffrey Epstein and underage people? Why are you not pushing back on the fact that he's involved with Project 2025? You know, the blueprint to the destruction of our democracy. Why are you not focused on what is quite possibly the devil incarnate when you are instead circling up and attacking your own guy? Why are you choosing to do this now? This is ridiculous. Trump has viciously attacked his fellow Republicans. He has went after them, called them horrible names, called their wives or their husbands horrible names, has relentlessly attacked his own people, and yet, I don't know if it's to their credit or not, they still stand by him. They still unite and present a united front. Why can Democrats not do that when President Biden has only just had a few stumbles? He's gotten a few words mixed up. He's been sick. He's been tired. And you're going to jump ship now? It is so insanely frustrating to see these Democrats just start infighting at quite literally the worst possible moment. We are 4 months away from the general election, and Democrats are now choosing to infight, and I don't understand what the game plan is here, guys. What are you planning? What is this? Why are you doing this? And again, because it seems like we need to remind people, Kamala Harris would be a fantastic president, no doubt. But she's currently on the ticket with Joe Biden as the vice president. If something happens to President Biden, or if in a year or two or whatever, he decides that he can no longer perform the duty of the presidency, or if he is sick or whatever happens, Kamala Harris is in line to take over. There is a line of succession. Voting for Joe Biden is voting for Kamala Harris, and I wish that Democrats and a lot of the mainstream media would recognize this and understand this. I get that the mainstream media thrives on controversy and drumming up drama, but at this point, it's getting ridiculous. We need to stop with this horse crap and realize that Trump, he's changing the game. He has introduced a new set of variables into this election that we have to address and we have to tackle head on. This is not just a Democrat versus a Republican. This is not just Biden versus Trump. This is democracy versus fascism. And look, again, I've said this before, but there is not going to be a perfect presidential candidate. Does President Biden have some shortcomings? Sure, as would anyone. But this viciously attacking him and this willingness to cannibalize their own party has to stop, or you guys are going to fool around and make this the last election we're ever going to experience in this country. Please, I am imploring congressional Democrats to stop squabbling and infighting and jumping ship at the first sign of trouble from President Biden when he already has a great track record, and instead focus on the guy who literally has a blueprint to destroy our democracy and install Christian nationalism and an authoritarian regime. But only time will tell if the Democrats will pull together and truly unite behind Biden. But it is reassuring to see Jeffries write out this letter and voice his support for President Biden. So hopefully Democrats can put this matter to rest and we can unite against the real enemy, Donald Trump and the Republicans.